First week of December. Yeah, let's hop right into it. All right, so starting on dollar, we were expecting bearish prices, and that is what we got. We hit the drawn liquidity that I had for the week, which was this swing low down here, which is actually the monthly low for November. So that is something to consider as well. If we look at pound and dollar, right, we have a monthly gap. EU does not have a monthly gap here, but we have monthly gaps that we did form with November as like the last candle in the gap formation. So purging November's liquidity has us inside of those monthly gaps now. So that is definitely something to think about going forward. Anyway, dialing back down to the weekly chart. Yeah, we had that drop down, and we actually did not. No, we did. We ended up closing just below that low as well, and we also did end up inversing this weekly gap, right? So we got to close below this weekly inbounds right here. A nice weekly order block in this candle here. Weekly bearish breaker here, so a lot of bearish stuff lining up on the weekly chart, right? Potentially a weekly smart money reversal, and then we could see some action lower. And that is something to keep in mind, right? Obviously, this kind of high here stings into your eye, but if we do draw it out, we can see that we did now purge it already twice, right? So this is definitely taken care of, right? If you don't have any markings, it kind of looks like it might still be kind of like above, but yeah, just to denote that here that has been purged, just to clear up any potential confusion. Yeah, what else? So going into the week, the draw on the daily chart was this these two daily equal lows. On Monday, we made it a third equal low, and then retraced higher, running back up into this volume imbalance here on Tuesday, and then that's kind of where the high of the week came in, right? And then from there, we broke down and did actually end up taking out those lows. On Wednesday, got a decently like fat close below, and then yeah, formed a daily gap with Thursday, and then tapped the daily gap on Friday. And so not much happened on Friday. Essentially, we first traded lower, and then we ended up coming back into the weekly range to tap the gap. So there was like nothing set upable about it, right? Here you can see that on the hourly chart. On Friday, we initially trade lower, and then we run higher into the gap right there. So yeah, overall, definitely a bearish week on dollar, and then with that comes a bullish week on euro, right? Running up into that buy side here that I had marked out going into the week. So targets met, right? Same kind of shtick here. Monday, we make another equal high with these. And then Tuesday to Wednesday, we end up actually running there. And then Thursday, Friday, we kind of consolidate off that high time frame liquidity being taken. Same approach on pound, except Monday really didn't do much to the upside, at least compared to dollar and euro. And then Wednesday was like a bit more extreme even. And now we also have that daily gap in play probably for next week, right? Because obviously nothing, same as on euro, we didn't really do anything with it yet. Kind of just consolidated Thursday, Friday there. So yeah, but overall, this was the target. I'm like 99% sure that I mentioned on pound, right? These two equal highs up here. Just kind of, it's not as clean of a target as dollar and euro had, but it was kind of like the equivalent range. If euro takes these highs going into the week, right, we were like trading here. If euro runs up to there, then pound will run from here up to here to take out those equal highs. So that was very much met. And then as I mentioned, we are also trading inside of a monthly bearish gap, but also if we look at the weekly chart, we don't have the breaker or like the order block really on pound, but we do have SMT on these lows to dollar. So that's the mitigation block with SMT to a correlated pair where the breaker is. So that it might as well be a breaker essentially. That is for sure something to keep in mind. And also we did inverse this weekly bearish gap that on pound we have not delivered lower off of yet. So it's like still active, quote unquote, to hold price lower if we were bearish, because we haven't even completed the internal external move yet. Anyway, all that to say, pretty bullish potential creeping in on the majors. Yeah, let's move on and on to indices. Indices, just as expected, we had a bullish week. Now, what I will say is the week was pretty like limp, like not much happened, right? Like pretty like slow in terms of price action, which will really show here on the daily chart. As I mentioned, going into the week, we had all these daily gaps to potentially look for continuation trades from going into the week, and then this is kind of just the price action. So, I mean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like it's just consolidation in like a slight upward trend, I guess, so to speak, and then NQ is the same. Yeah, we did retrace to a daily gap initially, and I do have that mapped out here. And this is such a clean setup, and I'm still triggered by it. Essentially, right, we hit the daily gap, we come down into it Monday, and then we retrace off of it going into New York on Monday, and then like pre-New York, we get another push lower. We have SMT with YM here. We have SMT with ES, where ES didn't purge 7 a.m. here, the down close candle, while NQ did. But now the problem with this is not a high probability order block as I have defined it in my rules, because for that to be the case, it needs to take out a short-term low, or, you know, it can also take out like an intermediate term low, but there's not even a short-term low in this price run here for these down close candles to take, and the same goes for ES. So with that, this becomes, you know, it's not an order block per the rules. So even though I was like painfully in the know of where price was going to go, per my rules, I wasn't allowed to take the trade, and I stuck to my rules, because that's one thing essentially the most important thing, and the thing I will do anytime I can, right? If there's, conflict between what I want to do and what the rules want me to do, then I will do what the rules want me to do. I've learned painfully that if I don't, usually I get fisted. This time we got fisted for following our rules, I guess. But yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. Anyway, with that being said, right, indices just as expected. Once again, it's like nice to know the draw, but obviously the most important thing would be to capitalize off it with a trade, and we weren't able to do that, so that's kind of unfortunate for indices. But yeah, bullish as expected. So analysis wise, we were spot on for indices and majors. And then silver and gold going into the week, obviously we were looking for that continuation into the all-time high on silver. This was like a no-brainer, really, like, zero thought put into it. I had also mentioned that Monday might do it, because we have seen often on metals, so on gold and silver, that Monday, when there's a draw higher and it's got places to be, Monday often just rips. So we got a Monday rip, and then we got consolidation rest of the week. Then on gold, we formed the daily gap, tapped it on Tuesday. There was a setup in here that ended up losing, and then there was another setup in here that ended up winning. Yeah, all that is going to be in the trade recap that I make. So yeah, that's kind of the price action recap, right? And yeah, gold, if we look at this from a daily chart perspective, ignoring the fact that there's kind of trades in here, then this is like very much consolidation on the daily chart, right? No follow through, no expansion. We had a lot of follow through to the upside, but then I can just pop to the hourly chart real quick. Like end of New York yesterday, like New York PM session, we were super bearish all of a sudden, and kind of reverted that whole move that we had worked hard for, so to speak, higher. And yeah, that was that. We formed weekly gaps on gold and silver, so that's something to kind of pay attention to going into the next week. And yeah, that's the recap. So, yep.